No, I think we're okay. I'm trying here. Yeah, I have it. I put your name as the panelist. It worked? Oh, it's me. Wait, so should I remove myself as a panelist? That's me. I changed my name, sorry. I figured it would look weird if it said my name with no. Oh no.
There's a slight delay.
Oh yeah.
That mezcal is sounding really good right now. You coming out?
The word?
Yeah.
The word?
Get a little drinkies. Drinkies.
Oh, it's me. Oh, it's me.
You're gonna come drink? It's gonna hear in a second.
Myself as a panelist?
Okay.
That's me. I changed my name, sorry. I figured it would look weird. If it said my name.
Can I close this? Yeah. Or at least mute it if you want. Just so no one needs to
Oh, yeah.
hear that.
Someone's open.
Word?
Hey, Elena, can you, I'm gonna ask to unmute you. Can you unmute it?
Are these on?
Yes, I can hear you.
Where?
Oh, but I don't know if they're like on.
But you can hear me fine if I talk like this.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think the microphones are going to be more for the radio.
Wait.
But honestly, if Ben and Ashley just regular talk, it'll be totally fine. I can't figure out her computer. Shweta's computer is a little wonky right now.
Okay.
So I'm trying to figure all this out.
Okay, so what's happening is I can hear you on my computer on my live stream over there, but I can't hear it on the radios.
I don't know if he's turned that. I don't know if the microphones are on for that to work yet. Hey, Megan. Okay. Can you talk?
Yeah. Yeah, turn your audio on.
Hello.
Cool. I can hear her
All the
perfect.
computers are talking. Okay, so all the computers are talking to each other, but it's not feeding. Is it supposed to?
So,
The what?
hey, Emily, we miss you. We're testing out right now. I'm going to sit on this tester page. Would you like one to sit on?
Like a little dial.
So the problem is that it is echoey with Megan talking into Ashley's computer or whoever.
Okay, but that's just because they're close together, right?
Oh, it's 5829. It spells Lucy. Okay.
Yeah, it must be. It's not anything that y'all are doing. But I'm still not hearing it on this. Even with the that's not that audio isn't coming here.
Emily, can you in the chat box once we start this let me know what all the sounds like?
Emily here.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
hi. Got her text.
I'm freezing. I have to go get my jacket. So while they're doing that,
Like a setting on my computer that needs to be changed. Are you hearing anything or not?
No, I hear it through the microphones.
Okay, so it is feeding through the mics.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe we can have one Oh, we don't. Oh, on that side. Oh, that would work better. Yeah. And then you
Hello.
guys are gonna share that mic, I think.
This one?
Yeah.
Hello. Test.
Everybody cool? Hello.
Hello. Can you hear it in there?
Yeah. I can hear you. I'm waiting.
Megan is echoing, Emily said. Emily said I'm echoing.
I think it's echoing over here too.
Interesting.
Hello.
Ben,
Yes, ma'am.
can you hear me? Oh, but you're next to Megan.
Where
You're muted.
So Megan, will you mute yourself?
Yes.
And then Ben's, will you speak a little bit into the camera? Oh wait, you're on mute. This is
Hello. Mic
perfect.
test. All right.
Okay.
No, can you
Emily,
hear me?
how was that? I love that she's.
I can hear everyone's voice. Okay.
There you go.
So these people are gonna share.
Yeah. It's probably just because the computers are next to each other.
Can you hear me now?
Still echoey.
I think it's because the computers are next to each other.
I think so too.
Okay, so what needs to happen? I guess. Oh, the echo is so bad. It's weird because this one's on mute. I'm not like I'm not able to hear the audio from the computer.
From this computer.
I feel cold.
It's a little bit cold, right?
Can I just go maybe get my sweater?
Yeah. That's what shirt you mean. They have sweatshirts there too. Miranda, can Ben's have a sweatshirt to wear? Because it's
Yeah, go
cold.
for it. I'm freezing too.
Okay, well, whatever you're comfortable with. I was running fast. Yeah, you can.
Use it because I'm gonna cover this.
Oh,
Or maybe I
yeah.
can put it on top and then this one.
Yeah, either way. I guess the front of this doesn't say Refugee Services
I'm a
either.
very cool person.
You like Miranda. She's always cold.
Usually share the screen here. Is that like turned off? Yeah.
I see us on the screen.
Emily, are you able to see my screen?
that on. That'd be funny. In a way.
Was just like, what are we supposed to be doing right now? It's like a microphone is also off. Whenever you're ready, just turn it on. Are you okay? You're,
I think it's good.
you're registering? All right.
Am I on the screen?
Yeah, on the screen.
You're in?
Oh, this, yeah. Oh.
Well, I got a little.
You want me
Am
to
I
switch
there?
it a little bit? This is
No,
18
there's
seconds. This is 18 seconds
delay.
of delay.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
You
really?
want me to adjust your, because you look,
Yeah, that's better.
right?
Yep. Perfect.
It's good. Or,
Okay. So this is not on, or it is on?
We see and hear you, Ashley.
Perfect. Hello.
Who is that? Who is that?
That would
It's
be
the woman
Miranda.
behind the scene.
I was just saying it looks creepy with the mask and the spotlight up on my face.
creepy Halloween.
And the ghost in the background.
Yeah.
Are we now playing in people's cars? We are really.
Yeah.
Yeah. We should probably.
Creepy with the mask and the spotlight.
Yep. Yep. That's playing in people's cars. Yeah, we've already started, I think.
I know we started. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, everybody. We knew that you could hear us the whole time.
Right.
It's so great to see everyone in person, more so than we've been able to for the past year. It's been so appreciated to see you on Zoom and to have you all volunteer in so many capacities with us and to donate and now to be here tonight. So thank you so much. My name is Ashley Fay. I'm the Development Director at Refugee Services of Texas. And I am going to go ahead and introduce Russell Smith, our CEO, who has a few words to share, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the film. And right after that, we have a really great panel discussion. So please stay tuned. It's been so appreciated to see you on Zoom and to have you all volunteer with us and donate and now to share today. So thank you.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Russell Smith. I'm the CEO of Refugee Services of Texas. Thank you so much for coming out. Thank you for listening to our banter just a minute ago. I'll be very quick. I wanted to thank our sponsors tonight, St. John's United Methodist Church, Congregation Beth Israel, Shepherd of the Hills Presbyterian, Austin Stone, Central Baptist Church, and Covenant Presbyterian Church. So we are Refugee Services of Texas, but in addition to refugee resettlement, we serve other displaced populations, including survivors of trafficking, both domestic and international survivors of labor and sex trafficking. So our program tonight will focus on this population, and that is it. Thank you for coming, and we'll show the movie and then stick around for a discussion. All right, thank you.
Other people. Farming and factories, you see it in domestic servitude.
Well, human trafficking is just a convenient slogan.
It's a slave trade. We call it trafficking.
It's a very well organized industry.
You'll be amazed how few people really know that it exists.
Slavery only exists because someone has violent control over another person.
The loss of control to the victim.
Inequality, poverty, vulnerability.
That's what defines human trafficking.
There is a global pandemic of violence that's unleashed on women and girls.
I don't use the word inhuman because it's humans that do this stuff.
It exists in every country of the world, including the United States of America.
This isn't always the land of the free.
And when you understand the issue in that way, that's the true essence of what we're fighting against.
Hey y'all, sorry for the technical difficulties. We are restarting it right now.
Of all the cruel and evil things human beings do to one another in the world today, nothing is more inhuman than the trafficking and enslavement of our planet's youth. Consider the fishing boys of Lake Volta. Born in poverty, the fishing boys are given away or sold by their often desperate mothers to relatives or smooth-talking strangers who promise to teach the boys a trade and give them a better life.
It is a practice which we started as a cultural practice, but it has gone beyond culture, now going to a cruel thing. So to me, I describe it as a slave-like practices, which is being mentored on these young, unfortunate children. Yeah.
Removed from their families and homes, the fishing boys find themselves on a vast man-made lake that will become a virtual prison for the remainder of their childhood years. They work 14-hour days under a hot sun, year in, year out. They are given one small meal a day. There are laws against human trafficking in Ghana, but not enough resources to enforce them. Skilled advocates like Eric Piazza and George Achibra argue for the rescue of these boys. But each year, thousands are left behind.
Let's go there near them. Let's go near them.
So this is the first fishing boys we've seen.
You know,
What's this little boy in the red here?
He's fishing with these guys.
Yeah,
the big boys have been trafficked for a long time.
They've been trafficked for a long time?
Long time, yeah. And now they're adults, yeah.
How old are these boys?
This one may be around 18, 19. This one
18 or 19?
This one about 20 plus. Hey, everyone say, where your friend is a small boy, you know? Ima, his name is Ima. Ima, what did he say? 10.
10.
Now, free. All these boys are working for one man. They call him Yao. Yeah. Ima?
You put him on the records and...
We will try and follow up his story. And then talk to other people around. Then we see his situation.
Okay.
Then we can consider him in a next rescue.
Yeah,
maybe
possibly.
Not this one.
Not the one coming up,
Yeah,
but maybe the next
rescue.
one.
Many boys die every year by entangling themselves into the net. They are being entangled by the net itself, and since they can't come out, they lose their breath and they die. And this is it happens more often.
Underwater or above, life on Lake Volta is dangerous. Diseases such as malaria, sleeping sickness, and bilharzia thrive in the lake's warm, shallow waters. Infections and injuries fester in the heat.
Yeah, I think he was hurt in the water.
For most of these children, their resilience is so great that they can go from an almost zombie-like existence of brutality, which is a reaction to brutality, to a pretty normal childhood, a happy, playing, educated, enthusiastic kid. And I've watched this miracle time and time again, and it absolutely floors me. And in fact, I've got to say, if there's one thing that keeps me doing what I'm doing, it's that. It's watching those kids go from being kids without hope and kids without any light in their eyes and kids without any play in their hearts to being free, happy kids again.
A 1,000 miles from Lake Volta in Senegal, malnutrition, physical torture, and 7-day work weeks are also the fate of some 50,000 street beggars known as the Talibé. The Talibé are young boys who have been sent by their families to religious schools, where they are taught the principles and practices of Islam by teachers known as the Marabout. The cultural tradition of sending children to Quranic schools is an honored one in Senegal. But like the fishing trade in Ghana, it has been infiltrated by criminals and ruined by greed.
History of forced child begging started with the noblest of intention. In time, however, it became something of an efficient, sadly efficient commercial exploitation of children. They live in the most wretched condition, in the most wretched lack of sanity that you can imagine. One Marabout told me in a very ignorant way that nothing will happen to the kid because God will protect them. They can eat nasty food, they can eat spoiled food, nothing will happen to them. But things do happen to them. What happened is that the constant sickness for this kid is stomach sickness, skin sickness. Many of them die. They do die from the actual living condition, and they also die from the beating of the Marabout.
There's no place where we're really, with a sense of urgency and compassion, doing what we need to do to protect the world's children from being used and abused. And every day, there are children everywhere whose rights are being violated and whose lives are being ruined.
The exploitation of millions of children is by no means confined to Africa. There are more than 190 countries in the world, and virtually all of them enslave children, women, and men within or across their borders. The vast majority of the victims are poor.
Poverty is an incredible factor in making men, women, and children, particularly children and women who constitute most of the victims, in making them vulnerable to the slave trade.
The lives of many of the world's poor are lived on the streets. And nowhere are the streets more crowded with children, millions of them, than in India.
6 children go missing every hour in India. And they don't disappear in thin air. These children are stolen by the traffickers at local level, and they are sold to different people, and then they are further sold to work as child slaves or child prostitutes or child forced laborers or child domestic labor. So it's a big nexus which operates right from the village level in the remotest parts of India to the big cities and towns.
Welcome to the Ghazipur landfill in the city of New Delhi. It is illegal for children to even be at this poisonous place. But the city needs their services to process the garbage, so middlemen let some children in and profit by their labor.
We are talking about the loss of freedom and human dignity. We are talking about the most inhuman torture one can think of, where a human being loses its name and face and identity and dignity and everything.
Rising before dawn, working all day, the children are paid virtually nothing. They suffer from malnutrition and are vulnerable to disease from the hazardous waste. The stench at the dump is sickening. It is like hell in this place.
Physical handicaps at times are so severe, either material which burns right through the bones of the hands of the child, or to the eye, or to the shape of the body, being bent for 12 hours a day, probably 6.5 days a week.
What kind of world creates the Ghazipur garbage pickers, the fishing boys of Lake Volta, or the Talibé beggars? Who are the slavers, traffickers, and middlemen who earn their livings on the backs and in the beds of our children?
Traffickers are just lazy. They're just looking to surf off of the preconditions that exist in our world.
They think of money as a big thing. They don't care about human being. They have no moral.
Whether it's people working in the apparel industry in Jordan or working in the biofuel sector in Brazil. But I think this is an age-old problem of people who are willing to treat others like they aren't fellow human beings.
It is the worst, in many ways, the worst manifestation of what people can do to other people.
An ancient people, the Romani, also known as Romas, or Gypsies, live in Central and Eastern Europe. Extremely poor, Romas are prime prey for human traffickers who travel to remote villages to recruit boys for begging and girls for the thriving sex trade in Western Europe. Trihan, a Turkish-Romanian trafficker in Zoha prison in Bucharest, describes his recruiting technique.
Nu mă simt vinovat. Deci am fost la bună înțelegere. Eu mă duceam, poate erau familii care erau mamă și fiică. Și mă duceam la femeile lor care erau amărâți. Și spuneam, măi, decât să stați amărâți, să cerșiți sau să, eu știu, mă rog, să furați, să dați în cap. Uite, poți merge cu mine afară în străinătate și îți ofer mai multe chestii.
The human traffickers in Zoha prison are mostly middlemen in the big business machine of buying and selling girls on the European continent. They commit vicious crimes, but are almost never severely punished.
Traffickers, they are very aware of our weaknesses and our vulnerabilities, and they exploit it. They know where the legislation is the weakest, or where the current political constellations don't really prioritize this, or where there are a lot of poor children that could be exploited. They are very clever, and they also know that they risk very little, because very few of them get caught.
You have bigger penalties for dealing drugs, and yet for dealing human beings, which is slavery, is no other word for it. Maybe you will end up in prison for 7 years, but if you're a good guy, you can come out in 4.
Când eram mai mic, aveam vreo 14 ani, așa, început prima dată a fost mai mult o prostie. Am luat o fată din ziar și care se ocupa era prostituată. M-am dat drept client, am luat-o, am sequestrat-o și am vândut-o la alți pești. Am văzut că banii care este, am început.
What's amazing about him is that he's also from a wealthy family, you know. But that's quite common right now in Romania. You have many troubled kids from wealthy families, kids that go on wrong ways and do awful stuff, you know. He admits that he harmed those girls for life, but he's not like having any remorses about this, because for him, you know, life is just valued differently.
Nu le dădeam să mănânce. Le băteam.
Cum?
Tot timpul.
Loveai cu palma sau ce făceai?
Da, cu pumnul, cu... Deci nu, deja mă enervam și eu eram mai bididiu, mai mic, aveam impresii de... Și le băteam picioarele cu pumnii.
They would just keep the girls against their will, and would tell them that at that point they were kidnapped, they were their property. They would strip naked the girls, they would take their IDs, they would beat them.
Nu știu, după părerea mea că toată viața o să trăiască cu coșmarul ăsta. Și vezi, unele mai reușesc să se schimbe, dar nu o să mai putea să fie femeie normală niciodată.
Every time when I say no, I don't want to do that. I don't want. You can beat me, you can do anything you want. He beat me so much, he missing one teeth, and I was pregnant. And every time when he beat me, I go off the floor, and I do that, and
To protect?
Yes, to protect, yeah. Nobody knows I'm pregnant because yes.
I heard about some kind of training facility, in the countryside nearby big cities in Albania, and the girls were, brought from abroad, trained there, then to be sent to the market in Italy mainly, but also to other countries in Europe. And the kind of stories you could hear was, execution of one girl to show to the other ones that they don't have to move. And either shot or burned.
After beating up a girl, you bury her alive, and just the face stays out. And you ask her, are you going to run again? And then you cover her face for 3 seconds, 4 seconds, enough for her to choke, clean her face, and keep on doing that, amusing yourself for half a day or whatever.
I remember several times I have seen, young girls with their breasts all burnt because of cigarettes. I have seen and I have met women that they were shot on the streets. And one of the girls, I remember, she became paralyzed.
There is a denial. We don't want to see it. We don't want to really understand why they are there. We don't want to have it confirmed because it's painful and it's frustrating and it's shameful as well. Why do we accept it? It's our children. And it shouldn't be like that.
Between 2003 and 2007, working out of Oklahoma City, the FBI conducted the first widespread human trafficking operation in the United States. Overseen by Special Agent Mike Beaver, Operation Stormy Nights resulted in the conviction of 15 pimps and human traffickers working throughout the American Midwest. Most of the traffickers' victims were young teenage girls.
Angie was one of the girls that was involved in our case here in Oklahoma City. She was a child that came out of Wichita, Kansas, and she came from a good family. She had a mom and dad at home early in her life. She attended public schools initially and then went on to even attend private schools. By all accounts, she was, an all-American girl. She was socialized well and educated well, and everything was going pretty good for her through her adolescence and up to her early teens until she started to experience some issues that led her down a path that she wasn't real proud of.
Probably the year after I went to private school, I started going to a public school, and that was my sophomore year, and I didn't really know who I was. I didn't feel like I fit in anywhere. I didn't really get along with my dad for a while, but it was just normal teenage problems, and I just get depressed at school.
Two of her friends approached her, two young kids, a 13-year-old and a 15-year-old in Wichita. And they collectively, these three young girls, said, why don't we run away? And Angie thought it was not a bad idea, and it might give her a break from what she considered to be a lot of crisis in her life. And one of the girls that she was with said, let me call a guy I know in Oklahoma City. And that individual subsequently traveled from Oklahoma City to Wichita, where he picked these three young girls up. Little did they know that he was a pimp.
I started to, feel a little uncomfortable because now I don't even know where we're going. I'm starting to freak out because I don't even know who this guy is. And we were driving past Wichita, going to Oklahoma City, and I was just like, I could just get out right now, and I could go home, and I could tell my parents I'm sorry that I left, and, it could just be all okay right now. And just then, like, as if he was reading my mind, he turns around and he's like, don't even think about asking me to let you out now. You better just tuck and roll. And I was just kind of like, so I'm really going to have to die before I get to go home now.
And he starts to control. And after a very short time, that child has no option but to stay under his command. And for them to break away and to talk to law enforcement or to call and reach out for help, they truly feel, and in some instances it would be safe to say, that their life would come to an end.
We pull up at a truck stop, and it's like an alley just right on the other side of this fence. He tells us to get out. He tells us what kind of prices we're going to charge and exactly what we're going to do. It was like 20 for a blowjob, 40 for sex, and like 80 for both. We get in the first truck, and the guy decides he wants me. So I go back there, and, I just have to just pray to God, just please help me. Just please let me get through it. And then Melissa went through his wallet, and he had grandkids as old as us. And all I could think about the whole time was how my grandpa could be this guy right now, and how that would feel. And I just wanted to die. And then I started to just think that maybe I deserved this for doing this to my parents and to myself.
Angie for the most part, came through her tragedy. She's got her feet on the ground, and she's moving forward, wanting to help people, and has a story that I think represents well what the nation is facing when we look at these kids that are being trafficked domestically right here on our own land.
Even a girl that's from like upstate and has like everything, like car, nice home, money, jewelry, you know, everything, you know, it can be something that she's missing in her life, and it could be like she doesn't have a good relationship with her mother, or you know, anything like that, and that can make her, you know, vulnerable to this, you know. So I really believe like this is something that can really happen to anybody.
It's fair to say that these kids are being exploited at the hands of more than just truck drivers. In fact, it would be a misrepresentation to say it's just truck drivers. We're seeing them purchased and abused by both white collar and blue collar type individuals.
More than 100,000 underage girls are trafficked for sex in the United States today. They come from all economic and ethnic backgrounds. They are found not only at truck stops, but on the internet, in motels and hotels, and of course, on city streets. Sheila White was trafficked on the streets of New York and often beaten by her pimp in plain sight. She now works with victims and survivors throughout the state.
You get to a point where you begin to feel numb. I mean, I done got beaten up in front of the Port Authority in Times Square, and you would think, you know, and this is like probably like 2 years after 9/11, so security out there was, you know, massive. A lot of police officers, a lot of, you know, and Times Square is a busy place, and you would think that for someone to get beat up literally in front of the Port Authority, you would think somebody would stop and say something or ask you if you're all right, if you need help, but it didn't happen. I mean, he even had time to smoke a cigarette. And it's like when stuff like that happens in the open, you really feel like you're not even a person.
How does a very young girl wind up being for sale? If that girl was born in poverty-stricken Nepal, she is prey to traffickers from the earliest days of her childhood.
You have children who are very vulnerable, working in factories and compounds, and sex traffickers come in and use those places as source spots for children who go into sex slavery. So it's all intertwined, you know. Children who are working are vulnerable.
Here, girls begin their lives as slaves by making rugs that will eventually be sold to wealthy consumers in the West. These girls are examples of child labor in the supply chain, which includes not only the carpets in our homes, but the clothes we wear and the food we eat.
It's an irony that many of the products which we use in our daily life, they are made by children who are trafficked and enslaved. Brothels and workshops and factories in many ways are the dark holes of slavery.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child.
In case of brothels, it is like living hell, where you cannot raise your voice. If the girls raise their voice, they are abused and beaten up. We came across many examples where they were burned with cigarettes, where they were tied down on the cots and raped just for making some mistakes. And their mistakes were that they don't want to attend 10 customers a day. They want to attend only 5 customers.
This world out here is lonely and cold. This world out here is lonely and cold. This world out here is lonely and cold. I guess I'll go back home. I guess I'll go back home. Why did I leave the ones that I love? Why did I run away? Now I pray to the Lord above. Let me go home and stay.
The physical scars and injuries could be treated and cured. But the mental torture is something which is incurable. They lose self-confidence. They lose trust in others. They shatter all their dreams.
But even the brothels of India do not compare to the volume and brutality of what is found in countries like Cambodia, where global sex tourism is big business. On the shores of the Mekong River, outside Phnom Penh, live children whose lives are in daily danger. To the homes of these poor families come sex traffickers, looking for young girls to bring into the city, where travelers from abroad await them.
Standing here in Svay Pak, a small Vietnamese village on the outskirts of Phnom Penh, Cambodia. It's the top destination for sex tourists in the world. They run rings of children here that have no value to them aside from the income that they produce for them by selling them to foreigners for sex on a daily and nightly basis.
Well, unfortunately, a lot of the places where sex tourists go are the places that have had a reputation for offering children for prostitution for hundreds of years. The difference, of course, is it's not just a sailor off of a ship. It's the drumbeat, beat, beat, beat of airplanes landing every day.
Right behind me, you see the two-story yellow building. Looks pretty nice compared to the other buildings back there. That's one of the brothels specifically for young girls. Westerners, foreigners from all over the world come to that brothel every day.
And what do you have down behind that little alleyway? What do you see when you go back there?
You'll see a row upon row, actually, of tiny little shacks. You'll see little boardwalks, and I mean little narrow boards that walk in between those places. Those are holding pens for young girls. And when a Westerner or, again, a foreigner comes to this village, they'll take them back there. They'll go house to house, or shack to shack, really, look at the girls, pick one out, and then have them delivered to their guest house or the hotel that they're staying at.
And the guest house is also in the vicinity?
Yeah, usually they take them back to Phnom Penh.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. Then it depends on the deal they negotiate. Could keep them for as little as overnight or a few hours to a week or a month. Oh yeah. Guys will come and they'll take a girl for a month. We have girls at our aftercare center who guys would come in once a quarter and have pick up that same girl and have them with them for a month at a time. And I mean, just brutalize them for that month. Westerners come into SWIPOC every day. I mean, there's not a single day Westerners don't come here, and there's no reason to come here except for that, you know. We've had over 100 girls, and as part of their therapy to tell their stories and what they've been through, 100% across the board, they say the worst pedophiles are from the United States, 100%. The most abusive, just things, again, we can't imagine.
នៅដែលគេយកខ្ញុំទៅលក់គឺខ្ញុំនៅអាយុ7ឆ្នាំហើយអ្នកដែលលក់ខ្ញុំគឺម្ដាយខ្ញុំពិតប្រាកដដែលខ្ញុំទៅយកខ្ញុំទៅលក់ហើយដោយសារតែគាត់ចាញ់បោកមេខ្យល់ដែលបានទៅលួងលោមគាត់នៅផ្ទះរបស់ខ្ញុំហើយរយៈពេលដែលខ្ញុំមកដល់ទីក្រុងភ្នំពេញគឺខ្ញុំជួបហេតុការណ៍ដ៏អាក្រក់មួយគឺគេយកខ្ញុំទៅដាក់ក្នុងផ្ទះបនដល់ហើយទៅគេប្រកាសខ្ញុំទទួលភ្ញៀវហើយគេដូចថាខ្ញុំមកទទួលខ្ញុំនិយាយថាខ្ញុំបដិសេធអញ្ចឹងគេប្រើទរណកម្មផ្សេងដូចជាសក់ឆែភ្លើងឲ្យញ៉ាំម្ទេសហើយនឹងថាឲ្យសត្វតិចសត្វផ្សេងតិចហើយបន្ទាប់មកគេយកនាងខ្ញុំទៅដេហើយនៅទៅដេរយៈពេល3ដងទៅថាទៅដេភ្លាមដូចថាដេថ្ងៃហ្នឹងអញ្ចឹងត្រូវល្ងាចឡើងត្រូវទទួលភ្ញៀវ
We noticed the earlier stage that we rescue them, the better chance we give them in recovery. Better still, if we can prevent that from happening in the first place would be good. But yeah, and that's why I had to say I am all for prevention more than cure because you rescue 10 today, 20 coming in tomorrow, and you keep doing the same thing over and over again. So we need to do something more than just rescue.
How great is the suffering created by slavery in the world today? Sophia Chun knows. Her daughter, Sakni, was kidnapped and is now most likely a trafficking victim herself.
And it's been 2.5 years now that I still have no news. Yeah, it's not knowing that killing me, and especially working in the field that I'm working with this girl, talking to them, knowing their story, knowing their suffering, how they go through their life in the brothel. I just can't help it. What if my daughter's in that same situation, you know? You try to forget by burying yourself with work, helping others, but now and then the knife is turned and twist because you have a glimpse of a young girl that looks similar to her, or you reminded of her by something that she used to do, a song that she used to sing. It's something that you can never really get over.
Crimes of sexual violence by human traffickers and their customers are unspeakable and obscene. It is almost impossible to believe that many of these children have been sold as virgins, sewn back up, then raped again and again. Children like this are everywhere. The United States, India, Africa, Europe, throughout Southeast Asia. They stand before us as our greatest shame. But in their courage and in their spirit, these beautiful children are living proof that all hope need not be lost. in Guatemala City, a dangerous and violent place where law enforcement is stretched to the limits, child exploitation has reached epidemic proportions. For International Justice Mission, the response to exploitation is based on a simple premise. The human right to justice belongs to everyone.
On the one hand, part of our civilization is moving towards sort of just increased privilege and even entitlement for the young and for our children, and in some societies, that's the concern. But the other huge portion of the world, children just live in a world that is haunted by violence. And if it hasn't come to them today, it's going to come one day. And they're utterly unprotected. There's no one to call on. There's no 911. There's no police that can be relied upon for protection. And it's open season on children.
It was an important day. It was an important day for the family that had been sexually abused and exploited by this man that we arrested today.
Buenos días, don Efraín. Moving, extending his hand, shake his hand. Second handshake.
They will have the chance to see justice, which means restoration. And this sends the message that what happened to them was not right.
He's now outside.
After months of investigative and legal work, IJM helped provide enough evidence for the Guatemalan police to arrest Efrain Ortiz on charges of violence against women and child exploitation.
I think it was an important day for the community. There was some people and almost a mob getting together, wondering what was going on. And then they heard, they learned. And the message that was powerfully sent today is that you don't mess with your children, right? You just don't do it. And abusers, bullies, may actually get in trouble. They saw police officers doing their job today in their uniforms, right? And do it the right way.
We need to get out of this area as soon as possible. A lot of people is watching.
Mr. Ortiz is the exception. Thousands like him go unpunished in Guatemala and all over the world.
It's the same story, This woman, mother of 7 children, married to this alcoholic man, abusive, who was not only sexually abusing all of his daughters, but also he was sending them to the city dump to collect garbage. He was getting all the earnings. And if they would come back home without enough, they would get beaten. And that's exploitation. Poor families have to work all together. You see that all around the world. We work with our families. That's okay. But when you exploit them, when you beat them, when you threaten them, we're in trouble.
The poor in Guatemala have no one to call on. But access to law enforcement is precisely what human trafficking victims everywhere need.
One of the things that Polaris Project does for the United States is we operate the national hotline related to this issue of human trafficking. And so we have the task of being there, being open 24/7, and serving as this outlet for anyone to call.
Often they may have very specific information about a trafficking situation, nationalities, addresses, contacts, potential trafficker information. Other times it's extremely broad. They're new to the issue and they think they just might have seen something.
I received a text message from the Human Trafficking Hotline with a tip that a person in Falls Church, Virginia was a victim of human trafficking.
In Washington, D.C., Children are held captive by individuals who do not fit into the prevailing stereotypes of human traffickers. Anne Bacalana, an economist at the World Bank, hired Deborah, a young girl from Tanzania, to work in her home as a caregiver. But in fact, Deborah was a domestic slave.
We get calls on the hotline about these domestic servitude cases smattered all throughout the country. Oh, here's a call coming in from Wisconsin. Here's a call coming in from LA. Here's one from Houston. Here's one from New York. Here's one from the DC suburbs. And you kind of take a step back and think about it, and you think that all throughout our country, there are these mostly women held in these vulnerable situations in these homes.
I was doing everything. I was taking care of kids, 2 of them, sleeping with them 24 hours all day. There's no break, and I was cleaning too and cooking, doing everything.
The conditions that we've seen with some of our clients is that they were forced to leave, some of them not even having a room in the house that where they live in. So sometimes they would just live in literally sleeping in the kitchen of that house, just in a mat. And just so they have to just be up at 4 o'clock in the morning so they won't be on the way of anybody in the house. And then they will rarely go to sleep. They will sleep only like an hour.
She doesn't want to know or to hear or to listen anything. And she doesn't want to stay with her kids, praying with her kids. No. It's no all the time. So they were my kids, not her kids.
Nice seeing you. It's been a few months since I've seen you, hasn't it?
Deborah's rescue was successful once Agent Bristol was able to start talking to her. He found his opportunity on Sundays when she was allowed to walk one of the children in her care to church.
I had a 60-minute window to approach her. So I followed her a few Sundays, and then I decided to have a social encounter with her in a very non-threatening way, because many people are very fearful of the police or the FBI. I had to gain her confidence first, and I decided to do that with an aid of a dog who I thought she would enjoy seeing. And it just irked me that this person who had a contract was being taken advantage of, but that's the whole part of domestic servitude. People are getting work out of them right down to the last hour. And I explained to her that you can't work and not get paid in this country. And she signed a contract to be paid. And she's complying with the contract, but she's not getting days off. And she's there with coercion, which is one of the 3 elements of human trafficking: force, fraud, and coercion.
I didn't know like he was around there all the time. He wasn't asleep. He was taking care of me, really good care of me. Then I came to Polaris. It's wonderful. I never thought like there's a people care.
The bottom line for us is, with every victim that we talk with, whether it's directly through our case management or through our policy work, essentially what we're doing is giving them hope that life can be better.
And so we come to Grace. Grace was a child soldier, one of nearly 500,000 fighting in armed conflicts in 19 countries around the world. At 14, Grace was abducted from St. Mary's boarding school in northern Uganda by the notorious Lord's Resistance Army, which has terrorized the region for more than 2 decades. Killing, hunger, and rape were part of her daily life. As Grace recounts, escape was not an option.
A little home that there was a man and a wife who was very pregnant, and they decided to hide this girl in their hut. And the rebels knew that the girl was there, so they went and pulled her out from under the bed, and they forced us, the 30 of us, to beat this girl to death. And They killed, they beat the man that hit this girl, to death. They beat the wife who was very pregnant, plus the baby in the stomach, to death. And so we left 4 people lying there.
They forced you to do this?
They forced us to kill the little girl, but the man and the woman, the rebels themselves, killed them. And then we started walking from that place.
The long march to the LRA camp in Sudan was a living nightmare.
Marching into southern Sudan was like marching into the grave. It was people, there was no water. Even the commanders that were there, that were walking with us, you could see that they're getting weak. And we could ask your friend to try to urinate for you so that you can take, but there's no urine because they have not taken any water. If you have any little food and you want to eat it, you can't eat it because it gets stuck on your throat. And children started killing themselves because you just put a gun and kill yourself because they're hungry and they're thirsty and they can't eat and they can't walk anymore. So people really started killing themselves. But fortunately, my group and I reached Sudan. Very not safe, but we reached Sudan not dead.
Once in Sudan, each child was issued an AK-47 and taught how to use it.
By the time they handle the gun, they're more than hardened soldiers. They can fight. And before they're taken, some of them are forced to kill their own parents. Some of them are forced to kill their own brothers and sisters or relatives. So by the time they leave, the child is already disillusioned. The senses of being human are already on the process to be taken away from them.
Against all odds, after nearly a year in captivity, Grace managed to escape. But many were not so fortunate, including her best friend, Miriam.
Miriam, I went with her, actually we were abducted the same day, and we were picked together, and we went to Sudan together in the same group. And I spoke to her once in a while before I escaped, because after we were taken to Sudan, even before we went to Sudan, we were not allowed to talk to each other, but we sneaked anyway to speak to each other. And so I escaped and left her there, plus the other girls in Sudan. 6 of them have been killed, some of them beaten to death because they tried to escape. And Miriam is still in captivity up to today. I know that she's still alive. That's my hope. That's my faith that she's still alive, because she deserves life. We all do, but why did she have to remain, or why does any child have to suffer for that long? What crime have they committed that they have to suffer that long? Slowly but sure, I'm healed. You can't really, it's hard to say that you're healed, because constantly when I see all the things being done to children in different ways, it has not left me. I feel inside like pain, a sharp pain inside me, that children are still going through what I went through. And I feel inside me that this kind of evil must be stopped. It should never continue, because it's worse than evil that grown-ups are actually using children in armed conflict. Grown-ups are raping children, and grown-ups are destroying the future. It's something that I've never come into like
I constantly want to find the answer why such a thing happens.
We give these kids scars for the rest of their life, and we create societies where children are commodities.
Human trafficking, child trafficking, exploitation, and abuse are not an inevitable condition of our human society.
But in this struggle, there is hope. Hope is poor Egyptian girls for whom one-classroom schools have been built in the center of their own communities.
If we address women's needs in terms of accessing education, being free from violence, being economic participants, our world will be better for everybody.
Hope is new and tougher laws against trafficking that are being enacted around the world. Even though not nearly enough is being done to enforce them.
I'm impatient because we should be out there fighting it. I'm impatient because convicting 3,000 people around the world every year isn't enough. Freeing 40,000 or so victims a year isn't enough.
Hope is communities in Africa that have educated themselves about human rights.
When people make these decisions to really embrace human rights together as a community and as an extended community, you see all kinds of changes happening. You see the end of child marriage. You see the end of domestic violence. You see the community standing up and saying we have to protect our children from being sent off to beg in the streets, to be trafficked elsewhere.
And hope is those who do not turn away, who do not forget.
I would never forget the look of these girls. And I'm afraid that was just a simple example in a galaxy with so many hundreds of thousands, perhaps a million of them around the world, which we never see.
We really have to help people to understand I am responsible for this. I have a dignity. I cannot destroy my own life and the life of a human being.
I can't seize a good life while there are people living like animals. Not because I'm a good person, not because it's my duty, but because he is human like me.
From his age, he is wise. He's got his mother's eyes. Gladness in his heart. He's young and he is wise. My only prayer is if I can be there. Lord, oh Lord, protect my child. time I hear tell when all will be well.
Hi, y'all. Thank you so much for sticking around with us. Thank you for also making it through the technical glitches with us. We are getting both of our panelists on right now, and then we will start very, very soon. So hold on just a minute or two. We're going to get going here in just a second. Ashley needs to unmute. Hey, Ashley, we see you. You're on mute.
Perfect. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, hello.
Okay, it looks like we are having some trouble seeing us on the large screen. We'll give it another minute here. Oh, that's okay. I was just trying to keep it from going away. Thanks. Oh. We were up there for a second, Aline. Oh, there we are. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Yes, hello. Okay, it looks like we are having. Okay, I think we're good. We're just going to work on getting our other speaker, Anjali, up on the screen as well. Thank you all for sticking with us. This is a learning experience for all of us, but I hope that you enjoyed, maybe enjoyed is not the right word, but I hope that you were impacted by the film that we just saw. This is a really important film because it really accurately discusses the clientele that RST serves in our anti-trafficking program. So as Russell alluded to, we have a Survivors of Trafficking Empowerment Program STEP. And in that program, which is operational all over the state, we serve men, women, children. We serve victims of sex trafficking and labor trafficking, both foreign and domestic born. And so that's one of the really unique things that sets that program apart, is that it is so comprehensive, and we're able to offer all of the services that we offer our refugee clients as well. And so I have two incredible speakers with me today. Ben here is with me. Ben has a very interesting story, and I'm going to just kind of let him delve into it rather than giving him a long introduction. But he has been a client of RST, and he is now an intern with RST, but I should be interning for him because he is so knowledgeable in this subject area, and is just doing some really great things that we'll hear about. And hopefully soon we'll have Anjali up on the screen as well. Anjali is a trafficking survivor from Nepal, and she was trafficked in the brothels in Calcutta. And actually that's where I met her right after her rescue, when I was doing some work in the red light districts. And the universe just brought us back together. And so I'm hopeful that the technology works out so that we can hear her story as well. If at any point you have questions, there are note cards in your bag that you received and pens. So please feel free to write questions on that note card and flash your lights. We have volunteers throughout the lot, and they can come pick those up from you and bring them up here, and we can go ahead and ask your questions. So at any point, flash your lights. Also, just really quick, we are selling merchandise by the exit. So if you're interested in the sweatshirts, the shirts, the hats, all of those fun things, goes to a great.
No, she's
Yep.
you mute. Okay.
Okay, perfect. I'm back. Okay. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start out with Ben while we're working on the technology. Ben, can you share a little bit about your story so that our audience understands why you're such an incredible anti-trafficking advocate today?
At first,
Ashley,
thank you so much, Ashley,
can you
for
guys speak
having me tonight.
into the
I would like to thank each and every one of you here, sponsors, our people over here who came and be part of this event. Thank you so much on behalf of the victims and the survivors, the Refugee Services of Texas, globally, and here in Austin, in America. Thank you so much, and all our people who's watching virtually as well. I really
Hey y'all, we're switching over to another computer so everybody is able to hear our amazing speaker. We're gonna get that set up really quickly. Thank you so much for your patience. We are still learning this technical game. Lots of pieces to the puzzle. Yeah, we're switching. There we go. Oh. Okay, should be good to go. Okay, thank you. All right, we're back with Ben. Ben, what is the trafficking situation like in your country today? And how common is it? And in what industries is trafficking most common? And so if you could maybe talk a little bit about the trafficking situation in the Philippines, but a lot of times I think Westerners think of trafficking as happening in other places. But for you, you come from the Philippines, but it was here that you were trafficked. So how common is trafficking here in the United States?
Yeah, that is a very interesting question. You see, what's our how you call it, misconception in the United States is it doesn't happen here. Like most like maybe 90% of Americans doesn't know that human trafficking is $1 billion business, and the United States is the worst country globally. And to tell you, Texas is the second state that is the hub of human trafficking. Let's talk about United States first. You see, there is like 40.3 million victims of human trafficking globally, and 15,000 to 17,000 foreign nationals are trafficked into United States. U.S. citizens trafficked within the country each year is even higher. Just to give you some specifics over here. Estimated of 200,000 American children are at risk for trafficking into sex industry according to U.S. Department of Justice. Now, 200,000 incidents occur within the U.S. every year, and I am one of them. So and all right. So the most I think your question is like the situation here in America and in the Philippines too, right? I never heard of me growing up in the Philippines. I never heard of human trafficking, but for sure it is happening there. I really don't have that enough information about human trafficking in the Philippines. I heard the neighboring countries, especially now that I just finished my research. Yeah, we've seen it on the movie that we played, but I would like I can talk about more here about human trafficking in America. The agricultural business is the prime how you call it industry when it comes to labor trafficking. Spa, massage parlor, cantinas, hotels. Those are like we're talking about the supply and demand over here. So the demand for trafficking, for human trafficking are mostly are from those industries. We're talking about in California, we're talking about the healthcare facilities as well, like caregiving jobs. Now, I just found out that there is an app, and I would like to tell everybody about it. Like there is an app that we can find out which corporation in America, like agricultural corporations in America, that would tell you supports human trafficking. And I'd like everybody to know about that as well. Like I said, agriculture, I mean, Texas is a lot of agricultural business over here in industries. It's a reason why, that's the main reason why we have a lot of human trafficking victims here in our state. And not only that, it's just because Texas has a lot of immigrants as well. So I hope I answer your question.
Absolutely. And could you share with us how you're using your experience to prevent others from being trafficked and to empower other survivors?
Yeah, like I mentioned a while ago, I really appreciate what Refugee Services of Texas has done for me. I'm using my own experience
it's hard, it's tough. Every time I speak about it, it is taking me back to 2008 when it happened to me. It's hard, but I think that is my story. I would like to use my own story to raise awareness. Last I started talking about it since 2017. I have attended a lot of speech engagements. The most latest one was February of last year with the First Lady of our state, Ms. Cecilia Abbott. I was with her raising awareness, using my own story, like storytelling about my ordeal. It's not fun to hear, it's not fun to tell, but I think that is the best way that I could use to contribute on this movement. Like I said, also I just finished my Human Trafficking Leadership Academy, and that would benefit a lot of victims and survivors in United States and globally in general, hopefully. Once the policy and the law that we research being adopted by the Congress.
So you pretty much answered my next question, which was your personal goals for your anti-trafficking work, but how can our audience members support you and others in your situation?
Right, yeah. I would like to start with, let's look after ourselves in our own home. Let's make sure that our family members are secured, are safe, they are being loved, and let's raise awareness in our own home, discuss it, talk about it with our children, with our neighbors, and be vigilant. If you see something, say something. If you notice something, like I said again, I mentioned a while ago about the corporations in America that supports human trafficking. Let's know about those apps, so we would not support those corporations in America. Like what you're doing right now, you're actually helping us. The Refugee Services of Texas, through them, you're helping us, victims and survivors, with the funds that you are contributing. And like you said, I really appreciate you guys. And like anything that I could do, I have a lot of plans. I think this is gonna be my advocacy for life. This is gonna be my profession. I found my purpose in life by doing this. I think that's the reason why God has put me in this on that situation, so I could be the voice of the weak and the victims who doesn't like to come out, and the survivors. And yeah, I would like to focus on the prevention of the human trafficking and in making sure that all the survivors, my fellow survivors, are going to thrive in the community.
You're such an amazing representative. We're so lucky to have you on our team. My last question is, are you hopeful about the future after all that you've been through? And if so, why?
Yeah, I am very, very hopeful. I'm not being political now. I don't like to go on that route. But the reason why I said that is because I know our current administration right now, President Biden and Vice President Harris knows about human trafficking. They've been in the government office for a long time, and they come across about it for the last administration of Biden. And this is just like this is a very, very crucial moment for them to hear us, and that is what myself and my group, my fellows in Coro, is trying to do to get that attention of administration, so we can get a lot of help, a lot of assistance from the government, and I'm hopeful about that, and I'm hopeful with the world. You see, Refugee Services Texas has given me a lot of hope, and that alone is, I would like, since they gave me hope, I would like to return that favor to them. I'm hopeful because somebody is here talking about it. organizations like Refugee Services of Texas, like you guys in the audience, you're here. Without you, I mean, it starts from me. If I will not do anything, who's going to do it? And it is so sad that human trafficking is still like happening in the land of the free. That is very, very sad. People are capitalizing, using human life as a merchandise to make their life better, to give them comfort. And like I said, that is very sad that this is happening. But I'm so hopeful because there's a lot of people like Refugee Service of Texas, like you guys, with me, with you, with us, all of us, we can, one day we'll get there. I know it. I'm so hopeful about that.
And with spokespeople like you, I'm confident about that too. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to connect the technology with Anjali, but I just wanted to say a few words about her story because it's a different story, and I think it's really important for us all to remember that the situations of trafficking survivors are so diverse. When we think of what a trafficking survivor looks like, it's not Ben, right? And their backgrounds and their circumstances and their vulnerabilities are also different. And Anjali comes from a village in Nepal where there is a 90% trafficking and child marriage rate. It's 90%. And as a girl growing up in this village with no educational opportunities, a very high poverty rate, she would have to hide from boys in the village who could actually claim her as their bride. And so thank you for flashing your lights. Please, we'll be right over there. But Anjali took what she thought was an opportunity to work in India. And because it was so common that girls would leave the village, she went at the age of, I think it was 10, and she found herself working for 2 years in the brothels in Calcutta. And you can imagine the horror of that situation of a young girl who was there by herself and exploited in that way. She was, oh, I see her. Is she on the screen? Anjali! There she is. Anjali, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yay. Okay, good. I'm so happy to have you with us. I was just explaining a little bit about your story. I don't know if you could hear, to give people some background. I wanted to make sure that they got to know you a little bit and your story because it's so impactful. And so let's dive into a couple questions here with our remaining time for Anjali. Thank you for being here with us. So Anjali, I was just sharing that you come from a village in Nepal where there's a very high child marriage rate and trafficking rate, and it's so common for girls to leave and go to work in India without really having an understanding of what that means. So can you talk to us a little bit about your story and what happened when you went to India and also how you were able to escape that situation?
Thank you, Ashley, for the question. Yeah, I want to start really sharing a little bit of myself. Yeah, when I was actually, the trafficking had started before I was born. It was already existing in my village. But when I was born, I had a good family, but because my father passed away when I was 7 years old, then when I got 11 years age, my village people, some people came to like say some people came to say me that, oh, I want to take you for marriage, and they just came behind me as I chasing a group of boys. And some people came trafficker. They were I didn't know they were traffickers, but they were traffickers. They came to say me that, oh, you can get better jobs in India, you are here just escaping and hiding. There were a lot of situations that I included in my book. And yeah, so I was just made to leave my village, which is in Nepal, a poor small village. And my own relatives, who were my own people, they took me in India. And then as I was small, for 10 months, they put me in an apartment. Just they let me to eat, and I think they wanted me to grow, because they didn't put me that I was not ready physically to do the work they had brought for me. But emotionally, they always told me that, oh, you can study, and you can eat, and you need to work later. Like, they just showed me that, oh, I have a better life later in. But after 10 months, they took me in a place where I was, it was out of my imagination. It's hard to explain, but I really had to bear the nightly rapes with each day 20 to 25 minutes I had to bear, go with. And even with that, I didn't have enough to eat what I want, or enough good place to sleep. And along with that, I had to be in fear of every day hiding and running from police, because these people always said me that police is going to put me back in jail, and I will never be able to back in my village. So I was so much uneducated and unaware that I didn't know there are people who can help me. So because I didn't know, I didn't ask anyone for help. And the police, I couldn't trust police, because police also came as a customers, and that really made me nervous to talk to them. Because of all that, I had to spend 1 year and almost 5-6 months in that area, when I was 12 and a half years. I was taken there, and almost 13 and half years I had to be there. And around 14 years age, by God's grace, I know earth is full of so bad things, but God also has grace on this world. So people, sorry.
You're doing great.
Yeah, so in 2008, September, it was September, I, with my 18 of friends, I was rescued.
And what happened? That's okay. You're doing great. I know it's hard to talk about. And so you were rescued, and then what happened after you were rescued?
Yeah, it was so hard even to trust the rescuers. We were fighting with them, because we thought that they are going to put us in jail, and we will never be able to back in our village. But slowly, it's also miracle of God that they gave us many psychology classes, and they involved us many activities that made us to understand ourselves, and the difference between the life that I was made to live, and the life that I can expect in and the hope that I can hope for my future. So then in 2010, I was returned to Nepal, and today I am not physically rescued, but emotionally and like all around I'm rescued. My emotionally, I can speak in front of you, because I am freed. My not only I got out of brothel, but today I have my own identity in the society. I don't need to speak like people that, oh, I have this and I don't need to do that. I have my own identity. I'm educated. I have a family, and I'm working for the, my own people. So that is my story.
And so tell us about the incredible way that you're using your experience to help other girls and women in your own village. What are your goals now?
Yeah, I just 2 months ago I returned back to my village, and I'm opening a school to educate the new generation. I really want the new generation educated. I want them grow as a qualified person so that they can earn money and they can support their family, because in our village there are so many people who are dependent on the earnings of the brothel. If they get sick or if they get some emergency needs, they immediately goes in brothel to their sisters, to their wives, to their like aunties to get some money for help, because here the people they don't have they're not educated. Because of that they don't have good earning. They are just farmers. They don't even, farming is not good here because it's a hilly area, it's a mountain area, it's not good. Because of that people are poor. So I'm working on so that the new generation can be qualified and have a better education. There were schools before I was born, the government schools, but why I don't know. Even there were so many schools, why the trafficking increased every day. But I believe that there were only schools, not education. Education should not be only going to school and reading the books. It should be understanding whole world, the reality of the world. So I really want to give the knowledge and understanding of the situation of the world, like also the reality what their sisters are suffering. I really want to make them understand. So I want also, I am now working with 4 girls. I'm training my 8 teachers, and for working with 4 girls, I'm bringing these girls because they are all, some are also survivors who came with me, and also some are child marriage girls who got married at 11 or 12 years age. And I'm giving them like non-formal education at the evening and morning time so that they can qualify themselves and have better future than this village. Because what also makes people vulnerable to go to India or like a brothel to be trafficked is also child marriages, and also the situations they couldn't earn anything. When these girls here they get in trouble because they got in child marriage, and they get in trouble as they start to understand life. Their family gets in trouble, and at that, when they are in trouble, the traffickers takes the advantage. When like husband and wife, they if they are fighting, the traffickers takes advantage. Oh, your husband is not treating well, you will get better life, you will earn, let's go with me. They takes advantage of that. And also when the trafficker sees that the girls are not earning well, like not having a good earning in the village, they try to convince the girls that, oh, you are going to have good money, like you will have enough to live a better future, like that. So I'm trying to create job opportunities and also make them more qualified with opportunities with education, and along with trying to bring more trainings and opportunities for these girls so that they can earn and not fall in the hand of the traffickers.
And you've also been doing such a great job at educating everybody else through your book. You have written this amazing book called Standing in the Way, and it's details your own experience And the funds from that are what you're using to open this really needed school in your village. So I'm so proud to see everything that you have accomplished and continue to accomplish. How can we support you? How can our audience support you in the important work that you're doing?
Yeah, you can also go in my school's website. It's www. Yeah, Hasta Memorials hastamemorial.org. Yeah. It's Hasta is my father's name. He really had love for education, but he passed away. Because of that, I kept
Hasta
the school's
Memorial.
name on it. It's a website. You can go through that website and also donate. And also you can buy my books in Portuguese. Also there is Uma Heskaji, it's in Portuguese, and also in English, Standing in the Way, which are in Amazon. And more than that, I think you can pray for the world that is full of darkness, and still we know that there are many girls in India. I don't know if your like situation, or if you know about here in Nepal, but especially in my village, there is the trafficking is very normal. The people here easily accept the trafficking. The parents and the brothers, and they easily go. Even the husbands, they let their wives, and brothers, they let their sisters to work in India in brothels and earn money for the family, to support the family. And so there are many girls in India who are suffering, even without knowing that they can have a better future. I know many maybe like in among 100, only one person maybe who is knowing is there. Just but many are there who, without knowing, they are suffering. Because I also didn't know that I have a better future, I can have a better future, or I can um dream for my future. So I think we there is always problems, but I really want we pray for it, and God can do anything, miracles.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate you sharing your story. I know it's not easy to do, and you speak about it so beautifully. RST has a book club for those of you who aren't familiar with it yet, and we chose your book, Anjali, for our next book club, and her co-writer will be with us and share some of her experiences in co-writing the book and in working in India and Nepal. And so please look on our website. We're working with her future coalition to sell the book through our website as a fundraiser for both agencies. And so please take the opportunity to purchase Anjali's book. It's really beautiful at rstx.org. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Anjali. I appreciate you. You're such an inspiration, and you remind us why we're doing this work. You are a living example of the clients who have found us and the clients who haven't found us yet, but that really need our services, and we want to be there for them. And it's because of the support of folks like you in our audience tonight that we're able to do that. We're able to provide comprehensive services to victims all around the world, all throughout our state. And we greatly appreciate everything that you've done. If you are inspired to contribute to our program, there is a text to give option. It's on the flyer that you received when you came in. If you text Amplify RST to 44321, that's an easy way to donate to the program, and that is what sustains the work that we're doing. So if you're able to, I know times are hard for a lot of us right now, but if you're able to help
please consider doing that, because this is life-saving and life-changing work. So, and you can also purchase the book on the website, and consider buying a sweatshirt. It's freezing now. So now is a great time to do that. So with that, we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. If you have, oh,